Good morning, everyone. This is Patrick Russell, class of '89 and a Blue Jay. This is episode 13 of the We Want More Vodcast.
Winds up, takes it, goes forward, scores another one for Hopkins.
The test was just called it right in there. Shot the goal right out front. The Blue Jays
does not wear a brace. Never has shown any adverse effects. Harrison with it. Big shot. Scores! Kyle Harrison goes high. That's it. It's over. Johns Hopkins has won its ninth national championship.
Pete, good morning.
Good morning.
What kind of weather you have down there at Homewood today? Give us a little forecast.
It's about 70, 68 right now, partly cloudy. Looks beautiful. It's going to be a great day for practice. Excited to get out there. Yep.
And we don't coordinate this like they do on the morning talk shows, but it looks like you and I both have our NAG. Our NAG.
We did it.
One. God bless NAG.
Yeah, Nag's. I got an appointment with Nag in about an hour. He's coming in to tell me stories, so I'm excited about it.
NAG. This is episode 13 of our We Want More Vodcast. So again, I did this towards the end last week. I'll do it on the beginning now. Great 13s at Hopkins, okay? One of the all-time great goalies at Hopkins, Jeff Berlin, was a 13 back in the 60s. Our favorite Canadian, I know you and I voted him our favorite Canadian, Mike Donnie Donnelly, the pride of Rexdale, Ontario. So Donnie was a number. And obviously, we have the Marr family. We have Dave Marr, I'm assist leader, and his nephew, Kyle. Kevin Mahan, who went to my alma mater, Loyola Blakefield. Kevin Mahan was nicknamed the Elf. He was a goalie number 13. Then, of course, we have two coaches and two Blue Jays who were great 13s. Bobby Benson, who's now coaching up at Providence, and my teammate Seth Tierney at Hofstra. He was a 13. So a shout out to all those great 13s that wore the Blue Jay uniform.
And the current number 13 is Luke Martin. Brett's little brother's a freshman.
That's right.
Great job.
Another sibling pair at Hopkins. Pete, if you ever get a chance, invite Donnelly to come and speak to the team. If not for gravitas, at least for humor, because he's the best.
Yeah, I've talked to him a bunch of times.
All right, so Pete, we're coming off the rivalry game, and what a game it was. Beautiful day, sellout crowd, just an up and down flow to the game. Give us a little bit of insight into how you felt about the Maryland Hopkins game this past Saturday.
It was a great day. Felt like for the Blue Jay family, for Blue Jay Nation, like the whole crew, just a ton of people, supporters, family, alums. We honored 3 championship teams. 74, 79, and 84 groups were back. A lot of, just connections being made and celebrations. And I thought it was really cool for, the whole, like I said, the whole Blue Jay family. And I think our guys got a little taste of that. They got a chance to see and experience maybe, one of the really, really special, experiences at Hopkins is having a sellout crowd at Homewood. It's different. There's just nothing like it. The energy was there. A couple different group chats with guys that, you hear them talking about what their plans are, who's coming back, what are we doing? The follow-up afterwards. I don't get caught up in a lot of the, the banter and the back and forth, but just a lot of, guys excited to be back and be around it. I thought it resonated with our guys and the, the way they took the field, the way they competed, the way they, continued to fight to the end, for anything that we needed to finish the day up one. And it was, just a great all around day and exciting to keep that Crab Trophy at home.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, right? Because it's a Big Ten regular season title on the line, and a couple people commented, winning the Crab Trophy is sometimes nicer for the players than, holding the Crab Trophy is more exciting than holding the Big Ten trophy. But
it definitely factors in.
Yeah.
What was that?
Nice part of the tradition.
Yeah, I like it. And obviously there was a lot on the line with the Big Ten regular season title and the number one seed in the playoff. And there's a lot of those other things. Luckily we're in a position where, if you can beat Maryland, it means you're beating one of the best teams. And having both teams in the top 5 nationally, I think, it was great on all those aspects to have a lot on the line for that game. But at the end of the day, the rivalry really it takes priority over pretty much everything when it comes to that.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to talk about and mostly cover in this game as we review back is our defense. So we mentioned before the call, the number of alums, lacrosse alums, who come back for the Maryland game. There's homecoming for our alumni base, but lacrosse alums really circle this as the game they want to watch. And so many people that you text and call and social media blips with said to me, defense wins championships, because that second half was really a defensive struggle. A little bit about our defense. And by the way, no goals for either team in the fourth quarter. But your belief in defense wins championships.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Playing a tightly contested game against a really good opponent, when you can trust your defense the way we do, when they can really be as consistent and as stingy as they are, managing all those little intricacies in between the slide schemes and the matchups. And I think the other factors are cause turnovers, ground balls. We cleared the ball 100%. I think all those things go into the work that group, that end of the field, really prides himself on. It starts with Coach Kester. He does such a phenomenal job. He's thorough, he's detailed, he's really, really on top of it when it comes to the way he coaches that group. He's done an outstanding job. And I had just a real emotional reaction after that one, and how much I felt happy for him and the work he's put in here. I mean, we've been here together. He was the first hire, and we had some tough times those early couple years, and to see the progress and it come to fruition the way it did on that day. I just was so proud of him and happy for him and that whole group. And I know how much work goes into it, how much passion and just cares so much about these guys having a great experience and loving, the way that they compete on Homewood. So it was a great day. It just, there's so much that went into it. But it'll go without saying, it's just a step in the process. We got bigger goals, but that one was pretty important.
I think a lot of alums and fans also like the fact that we come out aggressive. There's just sort of an attack mode to our defense, under control, of course. Mm-hmm. We did some penalties in the first quarter there, but it set a tone. Mm-hmm. You think it's important to set a tone?
I think we can do it without going into the penalty box, hopefully. But yeah, absolutely. I think the pace that they play at. I mean, we've had some games that we started with, a great first quarter or first half, but not a great first possession. It's almost like it took us a second to sort it out. And I think this was one where, we came out the right way. We made, an immediate impact on the defensive end of the field. Had it not been for the penalties in the first quarter, I think, they might have struggled to find any sort of a rhythm at all. I mean, they weren't generating much in the half field, and a lot of it was because of the way we play defense. Now, I don't, that's an incredible team, an incredible group. I obviously, if we see them again, we can't expect it. They're going to struggle in that same way. But I think our guys, really came out fast and tried to set that tone. Again, as long as we do it with discipline and stay out of the box, then I think it's perfect. And even in that game, like we even talked about, there's going to be some physicality. There's going to be some emotions that come with it. I understand that there may be some challenges when it comes to, those collisions, but let's just make sure we're trying to be as fundamental as we can and smart. So we don't, put ourselves in a risky situation. But you're going to take a margin of error with those, because I'd rather we're physical and make a mistake than we're soft and just try not to screw anything up or, get a penalty.
Well, as an observer, I mean, the discipline of play by the defense in the second half was stellar. I mean, knowing not when to, slide. Sometimes it's good not to slide, knowing when to slide, everything on control, balls. Frankly, from a statistical standpoint, I was looking, it was a pretty even game. The one thing that we probably took advantage of, Coach, and I'm sure you know this, is that, Maryland is a very, very good team. They suffered through some whips in the fourth quarter, some turnovers, some offsides. Probably took advantage of that.
Yeah, a few more turnovers than us. We've been averaging just about 14, and they're pretty similar to us. But I think they had a few more. They turned it over a few times in the clear. I think we were riding well. There was a really key one in the fourth quarter where their defenseman picked it up, and Jimmy Ayers was just chasing him, and it forced an overpass that went out of bounds. And then, with 4 minutes left, we get a brand new shot clock. I thought that was a big play that just was really, timely and great effort by Jimmy, but the whole group, you could see Angel was already starting to break down on that pass. A lot of those things, like, mistakes happen in games, but I think a lot of it, the intensity and the focus from our guys can force teams to play at a different pace, and that's what we're trying to talk about that. I don't think we're phenomenal at it, but I think it's one of the elements of our game. I think we take pride in. We want to keep playing better and better that way.
Coach, this week we learned, or last week we learned, the first set of nominees for the Dwarton. Chase Ireland is a candidate for Hopkins. Just tell us a little bit about his game. And before you do, we've had so many great players at Hopkins. In fact, so many phenomenal goalies. I have to mention, the Larry Quinns and the Quint Kesniches, right? The Jeff Berlins, who I mentioned, Emmett Collins, Mike Federico, Bertha, John, right? John Marcus.
Yep. Pierce Bassett was here this past weekend for Tucker Durkin's Hall of Fame.
Right. And they're, all those greats are back for this game. So here's something that I observed, and I'll get to my question. Last year I had Tim Marcille in goal, right? Kind of a gnat. He's tiny, he's quick, he's kind of enthusiastic in goal. And then you have Chase, who is sort of like a gentle Ben. Maybe long term, but he's poised, he's under control, he's tall. He's big in cage, and the poise he displayed in that game was just phenomenal, and lets this is why he's a Dwarton nominee. Am I making sense here with my sort of assessment?
Sure. Yeah. The sport, the guys.
Gold. He's not wild in goal. He's just very calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a poise that comes with the experience. He really dove in head first when he got here to learn the defense and make the connections. I thought that was really pivotal for him to work hard on those things. His roommate is Bo Zuluk, so like that connection I think is very strong there. He works as hard as anybody. He's very competitive. So, when he's had some tough days, you could see the reaction from him and how he, went about his business to work on it and improve and not carry it too long, but just, making sure that you dig in when you need to and in the right places. And I think that's really endeared him to the group and the defense. And so that's, I think, a lot of places where the poise comes from and where, the support with that group all around. I think they like playing, with Chase, and I think he likes playing with them as well. And it's a good collaboration, because he's a very good goalie, but I think his leadership and his ability as a teammate to just be consistent and and selfless in a lot of ways is what really unifies that group. I think they're he's a product of them the same way they're a product of his success as well. So it's it's been great so far, and we're just hoping we can keep making plays.
Yeah. This is just a personal statement. I like tall, big Tom goalies. That's what he represents.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Or the Tim Marcille's work. I love Tim Marcille as well, last year's goalie.
Sure.
Hey, Coach, another question about defense. Are we measuring the number of times we create a shot clock expiration? We were very successful when getting Maryland to throw the ball away for shot clock expiration. We measure that?
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. Coach measures everything. He's got every guy's slide decisions broken down to a percentage for the entire season. So he can tell you how many good slides, bad slides, no slides, fake slides. And he's got it all charted. And so everything is tracked when it comes to that. I don't know what our total on, shot clocks are, but those are really high quality defensive possessions to be able to play for that duration and then force them to dump the ball in the corner without getting a last second attempt. So, I don't know exactly what the statistic is on it, but I know Coach tracks all that stuff.
I mean, as a fan, it's a new stat to cheer for. It's a new part of the game that you'll eruption in the audience. Like, we prevented them from getting a goal or a shot on goal.
Yeah, watching that shot clock tick down starts to get pretty exciting on the defensive end. If you can clamp down the last few seconds and they don't even get a shot off, it's energizing for sure.
Sure. Quickly, offense. Tell me about our man up. I'm curious because we have Canadian influence to our team, guys who are good at shooting close and tight spaces. What are we looking for, man up? I mean, if Garrett Degnan gets a 15-yard time and room shot, that's great too. But like, are we ultimately working for that dump the ball in the crease for a one-on-one goal, or are we just looking for the best shot?
Well, I think that's probably going to be your immediate answer. I don't think Coach writes anything to specifically just generate one look or one shot. It's not a bunch of window dressing to get us to something. I think there's always layers to it, and that's why there's the plan is to keep the movement going so that the ball cycles to certain spots. Guys are moving on and off the crease. They have to cover things a certain way, and I think one of Collison's the man up goal that he scored where he's sliding through the middle and they're looking to kind of snap over from the crease to that new ball side, and if they don't do it in time, then there's the shot there, or if they leave too early to go play, I think it was Angel behind. But if they have step down from the top, then you got the over the top. I mean, that's one of the benefits of having the group we have is with a feeder like Angel and then a handful of shooters, they can stretch the defense a little bit. We've probably scored a handful of goals on man up where we didn't generate much, but we got bailed out because we got guys that can shoot it from 15. So that always helps. But there's always an intent to get, layups if we can. If we get the ball right in front of the net, that's ideal. It's probably the first option.
Sure. You've been coaching for a number of years now. You're a KG veteran. Honest question: have you ever seen a smoother stroke than Garrett Degnon's?
I mean, Hunter Chavetz is pretty close.
What in your history of coaching that you were like, well, this guy would have been close to having?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've coached a bunch of shooters. I don't know if I've coached one as good as Garrett, kind of all around when it comes to that. He's really good. I think there's plenty of guys over the years. I mean, he reminds me of I'm thinking of Kyle Wharton and Marr and there's maybe they're because they're lefties or things like that. Like,
I have another one, Pat Fraser.
Sure. Yeah.
Look, we never thought we'd see a shooter like Brian Brown, but then lo and behold, there's Garrett Degnan, right?
Yeah, I mean, Brownie's definitely different. I would probably put him in his own category because I don't know if I've ever seen anybody shoot like him. Partly because he can do it with both hands and the release points are all different. But anyway, that's beside the point. I would say, Garrett is pretty unique in that capacity. We have a handful of lefty shooters and with Collison and Hunter on man up as well. I mean, it poses a pretty big threat. So, but he's the leader there. I mean, he scored a 16-yarder the other day where I don't know if very many guys wouldn't get an earful for taking that shot, but I get pretty happy when Garrett shoots it.
It's awesome. And I don't, sort of drift off, one topic, but Ryan Brown is kind of like Tom Glavine, the pitcher for the Atlanta Braves and the Cubs, because he had multiple, his repertoire was, multifaceted, put that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was very unique. I think Garrett is unique in his own way, but I remember having the conversation a few years ago with him that you need to get a good handful of shots every game for us. Like we need that. Don't think you're being selfish if you shoot too much.
Understood. Understood. Last question about this game and the season in general. A lot of moving pick calls. Because we play a game where we do a lot of pick and rolls and pass and pick away. There were a number of moving pick calls. Is that just something that you've noticed? Something that we work on? Something that we try to correct? Or is that really just an official's call? It's all based on.
It's a question going into every game what their definition is, because some refs seem to have a little bit different of a interpretation, I should say. We're trying to be as consistent as we can. There are also a good handful of teams that will move the picker, and so sometimes you end up getting moved into the on-ball defender that is by the defense's initiation, and when you push back against them, that could be a moving pick. There's so many little subtleties to it. It starts with how the ref is going to call it and what they see, and we're trying to get aligned with that as soon as possible. We put it in the notes going into the game, and then I try and talk to them beforehand about it, and then as we're going into it, we also set as many picks as any team in the country. So I think there's a margin of that where they're just going to get called every once in a while because they're not all going to be flawless. There's probably a lot of them that don't get called that could, but we're also trying to set a whole lot of them. And again, the teams that combat that pretty well, they can push the pick man, they can push the defender a little bit, nudge them and initiate some of that, and we kind of talk about how to manage that so that you're not getting the call for pushing back, or same kind of thing like when the defenseman grabs your stick. You just lift your hands up and let your stick fall to the ground, or you try and rip your stick out of his hands. What is going to make it most obvious that he's holding onto your stick, or for the ref to see it? The last thing I want is for your stick to be on the ground. So I'm trying not to tell them not to just lift their hands up and leave it there. But it's all a factor of how the refs are going to see those things too. So
you would call that nuances of the
gamesmanship.
I was thinking I should come up with like a word of the week for the podcast. I think I used the word plethora before. I'm going to use the word nuances.
There you
go. Coach, one funny anecdote about that topic. Coach Zim and Quint were actually in the booth for ESPN. Mm-hmm. Disagreed on one of the calls. Coach Zim's like, you need to allow the pick guy to pick. And Quint's like, no, that was a moving pick. So the two of them started.
I didn't hear that. I would like to. That sounds great.
Great. And then the play-by-play guy was like, did you guys ever argue when you were a coach and a player? And Zim quickly jumped in and said, I was the coach, he was the player. No
I love Coach Zim.
Coach, always appreciate the time you're giving. We want to remind everyone that we are now entering into the Big Ten tournament. We will actually get a bye and play the winner of Ohio State, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play on May 2nd at 6 p.m. It'll be on the Big Ten Network. And Michigan and Ohio State will play earlier, and the winner of that will play Hopkins. Maryland, I believe, will play the winner of Penn State, Rutgers.
Yep, both those games are this Saturday.
So quick question for you. Is there a little bit of rest period here? I know you have practice today, but how?
Yeah, I mean, we are working closely. Sorry, go ahead.
How do you treat the long sort of wait?
Yeah, that's so we work with an outside source to help us plan our periodization. We call it like our week to weeks and our season long practice loads and what would get us from game to game the most the healthiest position, the most advantageous for the boys to compete and be their best. So we've had some conversations with them. We work closely with Coach Dyer and Coach Slay, our trainer, and just plan like what are the appropriate rest days, what are the days that we should practice, how heavy should those practice days be. So our normal week, we would take Sunday, and then Monday's a light day with lift and film and things like that. We went yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We'll take Friday off, and then we'll go again on Saturday, and then we'll basically turn that page to our build up for the next game, which more or less just scales backwards from your game day. So it's it's a little unique. I mean, it's definitely unique. It's a little strange in how you plan like a 10-day off as opposed to just a week off. If we played next Saturday, it would probably be pretty seamless to just, have a heavy practice day on Saturday and then we just restart the week. But the fact that it's like a midweek next week because we play on Thursday, we travel on Wednesday. It's a little funky.
Right. Remind me again, the Big Ten playoffs are being held
At Ohio State. So we're going to play next Thursday. 6 p.m. is our game. The other semifinals right after us. And then the championships will be on Saturday. And I should have recorded myself explaining to my mom how a conference tournament works after a conference regular season and then an NCAA tournament. Because I do it every year.
Yeah. Tell your mom this is the world we live in these days.
Yeah. I will gladly explain it to her every year as long as we're continuing to play in NCAA and conference tournaments.
God bless your mom for being the biggest fan, Blue Jay fan.
Super fan. She loves it. She's at every game.
All right, Pete. I didn't do this last week. I kind of let it slip, but I do like to do some fun stuff, fun questions to provide some insight into the team. So let's kind of end up with some fun questions for you. First one just came into my head. I did not have it scripted, but I needed to ask you as a coach. Describe your sideline demeanor. And that's probably not the right word. Are you a pacer? Do you like to stand towards the box? Do you like to stand at the end of the bench? And, or are you a pacer? Describe your demeanor on the sideline.
I think it all depends on the game and the situation, different times of the year, certain things I might need to feel like I got to stay closer to one side of the field for, whatever reason, offense or defense, or I might need to be closer to the substitution patterns. I don't know. I mean, I try and fit where I feel like I, can help the most. So sometimes I'll move back and forth. Sometimes I'm next to Coach Crawley and having conversations about what we're doing offensively. Sometimes I stay closer to the Coach K or BK or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know how to describe my demeanor. I think I probably pace as every coach really does. It's hard to stand still.
TV, I see you a bit of as a pacer. You're a pacer.
Yeah, that makes sense. I follow the ball a lot. It's also like I don't have one side of the ball. So if the defense is over here, I'm not always on that side, or offense always. So I'm kind of going back and forth. I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but I wander around.
Do you ever tap Coach BK on the shoulder and say, "What the hell are you doing with that substitution?" Does that ever happen?
We have conversations during the game for sure.
Okay. All right, Coach. Bus trips. All right, so we're gonna get back to trips. Let's say the bus driver falls ill and you guys need to get to, your destination for an away game. What player would you trust to drive the bus to an away game?
What player is driving the bus to an away game? That's a great question. Who would really enjoy Hunter Joronsky would probably want to drive the bus. I feel like he would jump right up there and want to drive the bus.
I thought maybe like an upstate guy, since they tend to own RVs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I might ask Patrick Deans to do it. I trust him to be able to do that. I'm sure Collison will tell me that he's the best bus driver in anywhere in North America, and that he's driven a ton of buses. And one time his bus driver fell asleep when he was playing Pee Wee lacrosse, and he had to drive the bus. He's got a whole story for everything. I guarantee it.
That's awesome. I love stuff like this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Breaks down. Okay, the bus breaks down. Who would be the one guy that would know how to fix or repair the bus?
I mean, I'm going to have to go with the mechanical engineer, and that's going to be Pat Deans, but that's also why I picked him to drive the bus. So I might, I don't know. Logan Callahan could probably figure it out. I bet you he'd read a manual while we're sitting on the side of the road. He'd Google it, and then he could fix it.
Right. Understood. All right. This is my last question for fun. We all love the Pep Band, and they were on fire for the Maryland game. We've lately that there's been like a guy in the Pep Band that dresses up as Elvis. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, you're playing. You're in the middle of the game. All of a sudden, we lose like the trumpet player, and the director of the Pep Band says, "Coach, we need a guy on the team to come up here and play trumpet." Who's the one guy? that would join the pep band?
Marcelo Ortega, and he would make Dylan Bauer come with him, and those two guys would be in the band. That would be my guess. Dylan could play tuba.
We need to get a picture of those two with the band at some point.
Let's do it. They would love it.
Awesome. Well, Pete, again, as an alum, congrats on that great win. Congrats on beating Maryland. Congrats on the Big Ten championship. We're proud of the team, but we know that there's a whole nother season ahead. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, we'll be in a bye. We'll reach the semifinals of the Big Ten championship on May 2nd. That game will be at 6 o'clock, and it will be the winner of Michigan, Ohio State. The last thing I'd just like to mention is we've done 13 of these, and I promised Ernie LaRosa I would mention that these podcasts actually appear on Spotify and Amazon Music if people are interested, and we appreciate everyone who listens. Pete, great week, and stick 'em Jays.
Go Jays.